control. Man, that looks great.
Jets! Oh my God, it's so beautiful. 78 degrees, Jets football, and we're winning. That's what's going on today. That's why everybody's so psyched. This isn't no happenstance. This is a guarantee, just like Joe Namath said. See that?
There are few things in life you cannot put a price on. Loyalty, tradition, fierce passion. Today is a gigantic family reunion because finally, they're back.
If you're one of those Jets fans going to our players' pages and ripping them, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to say it. You're an asshole. I just want to tell you that. You might not know you're an asshole, but you are. I'm going to tell you, you are an asshole. Now, having issues with players, never a problem. You can feel any way that you want. But going to our own players' page and calling them names, fat, you're a bust, whatever it is, dude, that is absolutely outside of the normal paradigm of being a fan. You should not be doing that. You are an asshole. Okay? I'm not going to waver from that stance. That's where I stand. You're an asshole and you shouldn't be doing that. Well, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? This is GreenBean. Welcome to an early morning special episode, let's call it. I'm so inspired by the interviews I'm watching of these new Jets players. I gotta talk about it with you. So I see that my Aunt Gina is here. Good morning, Aunt Gina. It's nice to see you. Before we get into everything, I will remind you that it is really, really appreciated if you guys hit that like button while you're here or watching the video. And also, if you haven't subscribed, that's about as good of a thing as you can do. We're rocking in the Beanbaggers group, my Patreon. We had such a good time. It was like almost 20 of us watching the 2009 Jets victory over the Chargers in the playoffs last night. It was fantastic. We had the best time. If you want to get in on that, the link is in the top of the description. So, guys, I am in a good mood. It is Thursday. That means that we have the Thursday thick of it tonight. Frankie and all the guys. We're going to be doing that at 8 p.m. And it just so happens to coincide with the release of the schedule. Now, we think we probably already saw it. That's what happens every year. These leaks are not exactly well-kept, secrets. It's just, it's the schedule. It doesn't mean anything one way or the other. It's just the game. So these leaks that come out a day or two before it every year seem to be pretty accurate. So it looks like we already know, but we'll know officially at 8 p.m. tonight, and I'm excited about it. As I know many of you guys are, but it just so happens I'll already be live. There was all this discussion yesterday. Who's going to go live? Is Richie going to go live? Well, I'm already live. So I'm in a good mood for that. I'm like, hey, that works. Because I was wondering if I should go live or not. I'm like, holy shit, I am live. So that's going to be fun. And we'll deconstruct the schedule. Let me say good morning. I see Mega Jets fan. What's up, Brother Bean? That's right, man. Good AM. Mike is here. Tom Coleman is here. Like I said, my Aunt Gina, Wild Wave, FBJT, right on. Rob D. It's so good to see you guys, man. It's Snoopy is here, Manny Roman. So welcome and good morning to all of you guys. So let's get into this, huh? We have some interviews that went on this week. And look, you can't absorb and digest everything as it's happening, right? So I got to see a little bit last night. I got to see a little bit this morning. And there's a few aspects that I wanted to talk to you guys about that really got me excited. Now, Carl Lawson is not necessarily a new player, right? He's been here for a while now. This is his second training camp and everything. But I have to admit, he feels like a new player to me because we got all excited about him last year in training camp. He looked really good. And we lost him. As you know, we lost him up at the Green Bay joint team practices that we were getting involved in on grass. It's just one of those freak things. There was no circumstance that we could look at and go, that's why. It just happened. He ruptured his Achilles, and we lost who was supposed to be our premier edge rusher for the entire year. Now, we've seen little drips and drabs, bits and pieces of his his workout regimen over the past few months, and the guy looks ripped. The guy looks ready to go. He's got that work ethic. We know that if anybody's going to come back from this type of an injury, it will be Carl Lawson. And he gave an interview this week that really got me excited. Now, number one, I want to point out, if you haven't seen the interview, I'm only going to talk about a few pieces. I want to just let you know it's a good one to watch. It's short, but there's a lot that's being said there. So let's take, there he is. Look at this guy chewing on his mouthpiece like that. So Carl Lawson gave an interview. And the first thing I wanted to point out is that it's really interesting to see him, the tact that he takes. So we all got nuts over this Michael Clemens interview this week. He gave a lot, he gave a lot, and he kind of set the tone for the new class coming in. Now, Carl Lawson's been here a minute. He was in Cincinnati before that. He's a little bit more aware of how the beat and the media want to get him to say things. So you can see it throughout the interview. He gives very, very short answers when they're trying to dig and, get him to say too much kind of a thing. He just says, nope, or yep, I'm good with that. So there's a lot of that. And I really got that vibe from him that we're looking at a pro. We're looking at a pro here. He's not going to give you too much. But there were a few things that he did say that I found very, very interesting. Now, one is he said they asked him about the, Salah's comment that he was looking at film, of all the new guys. And I think it was an interesting answer because Salah said that Carl Lawson is looking at film of the new guys. Carl Lawson said, I'm always looking at film of all the guys. Like number one, he looks at guys to try to get inspiration for maybe some wrinkles he can add to his game. So he's doing that, but he enjoys looking at all the young guys coming in. And they asked him, did the Jets ask your opinion on any of the players? Man, I got to fly in here. Are you kidding me? And this is what he said. He said, yeah, the Jets came to me and asked me my opinion on some of the edge rushers coming out. And he said it felt really good. So look, man, if Carl Lawson is actually out there looking at tape of a lot of the class coming out into the draft, and they this guy or that guy or this guy, and they say to Carl Lawson, hey, look, what do you think of, as an example, Michael Clemens versus Ebiketie as an example? And he goes, oh man, this is what I think of Michael Clemens, because he's looking at, he's looking at it from the perspective of having a peer, having a teammate. It's totally different than from the coaches or the GM. It's a totally different perspective. And that could be really interesting. Now, he didn't necessarily say that, I talked to him about Michael Clemens or Jermaine Johnson, but he did say that the Jets asked him his opinion on some of the edge rushers coming out. And it just makes me wonder, I'm hoping we get another, tidbit or two moving forward about Carl Lawson's feelings on Michael Clemens. Now, he did say that he met him at the facility and that he is going to work with him. He's excited to work with him and Jermaine Johnson. He said that they're very different, but then he stopped himself from going into too many details about his game. As a matter of fact, he said, I don't know what you want here, but I'm excited to work for him or to work with him. So he was about to go into some of their specific game aspects, and he stopped himself and said, I'm not sure what details you're looking for, but this is it. So another thing that he said was they asked him about the class coming in, the culture about the Jets. And this is what he said. He said, I like the guys we got in here. Now, he's not just talking about the rookies. He's talking about the free agents and everything that they've done in the offseason. We have a lot of guys who love football. We're trying to establish a new culture here. I love the offseason move. So, hearing that from Carl Lawson, it could be chalked up as just team speak, but it had a different feel to it. He was like, I love the offseason moves that we brought in. And he talked about CJ Uzomah, which I'm not sure if you've put two and two together yet, but they were teammates 2 years ago in Cincinnati. They know each other very well. They actually worked with each other in college as well. So they have a long history. And Carl Lawson seemed really happy to have CJ Uzomah on the team, our new tight end. He was the first tight end that we signed and brought in free agency. So here's the killer though with Carl Lawson. They were asking him, and actually to give credit where credit was due, Rich Cimini got the last question, and this was the last question, and he said, "What do you think about the depth on your defensive line here?" He said the Jets put a lot of emphasis on the defensive line. We brought in obviously Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens in the draft. We brought in Jacob Martin, and in free agency we re-signed Vinny Curry, and we brought in. He didn't bring up Bradley Anae, but he's another one that we brought in this year. And then he mentioned Solomon Thomas and Carl Lawson. He talked about it for a minute, and he said the D line is a very competitive group. This D-line group is a breeding ground for monsters. Dude. Now, look, we don't want to get too crazy. We got all crazy last year. We're talking about Carl Lawson and Vinny Curry in the rotation with Bryce Huff, and it's going to be so good. We don't know what's going to happen, and I am going to be tempered moving forward because that was devastating to see us lose our premier edge rusher. But if you look at what the Jets have done, they've made it so if we do lose an edge rusher, we still have edge rushers around. Like we still have guys. We don't have to go and trade a 6th-round pick for a guy to try to replace, the guy that we just lost. So we are deep. We have Carl Lawson, Vinny Curry, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, Jacob Martin, Bradley Anae, Bryce Huff, Jabari Zuniga. So we are deep there. Now, some of them might be, end up off the roster or what have you, but look at the difference in the depth that we have this year. You can see that our staff is learning, number one, how important that aspect is to the defense that we're having here. We were 32nd ranked defense in the league without the edge, without the pressure. So number one, it's important to the defense, but number two, having not to scramble. When you lose one guy, or 2 guys or 3 guys, we can weather losing 3 guys and still have guys that we're excited about. Now, if we lose Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, and Michael Clemens, it's going to be back to square one where we are. But look, you can only do so much with the roster spots. So before we get into the Uzomah comments, I want to check some of your comments and see what you guys think about this. And Rob D checks in and says, everybody's forgetting about Jacob Martin. Dude has a motor that doesn't quit. You're absolutely right, Rob. And don't forget that he got a sack. We all talk about how good George Fant did last year, and he did. We all talk about that. He only gave up X amount of this, and he did that. And Jacob Martin's sack against the Jets was literally he beat George Fant on the outside and then ran over Ty Johnson, who is just, Ty Johnson's pass protection is not exactly helpful. But Jacob Martin beat George Fant and beat Ty Johnson to get to Zach Wilson. And he does have that motor. But even more so, Jacob Martin is one of these guys that is known to be the energy behind the team. He's the guy rallying the troops. He's getting everybody excited. He watches the offense and roots for them and all kinds of stuff like that. A lot of times when guys get off the field for, their unit is done, they go to the bench, they sit there, they get a drink of water, and they stare into space. How many times have we seen our guys go over to the sideline and sit alone? Jacob Martin doesn't do that. He's either sitting with his teammates yelling and screaming, or he's standing on the field, on the sideline, watching the offense play. So he's one of those guys that could absolutely be part of a culture change. And if you're not expecting too much from him, you're not expecting him to get 10 to 15 sacks. He's simply a rotational piece so we can keep guys fresh and all that. Jacob Martin is a fantastic re-signing. The guy I think we're sleeping on, and look, rightfully so, he was a practice squad guy last year, is Bradley Anae. I think Bradley Anae is perfect for this defense with his build and his speed and all that sort of thing. I think that he could maybe carve out a spot for him. And as supportive as I am of Jabari Zuniga, I liked Jabari Zuniga in college. It's just the guy can't stay healthy. And if he can't put together 10 games where he's healthy consecutively. Like you might have to say goodbye to him and stop hoping for him to, be able to gather it up and be able to have an impact. And a guy like Bradley and I might be somebody who takes his spots. Guys like Bradley and I, Jacob Martin, Michael Clemens, none of these guys were here last year. So Bryce Huff looks like a keeper, right? Doesn't look like a premier edge, but he looks like a keeper. Bradley and I, we don't know yet, but Jabari Zuniga, as talented as he is, dude, the guy can't get on the field. And that is, what do they say? The number one ability is availability. So look, again, as supportive as I am for a guy who I liked in college, it's like, all right, buddy, this was year 3. Like this is the year for the 2020 draft class. We will know one way or the other. A lot of guys that have had ups or downs or all arounds, this is the year. You make your decisions on that draft class. So let me see what else we got. Brahim. I love the potential, but I have one question. Who is our run stuffer? Well, the run stuffing interior is going to be dependent upon the interior, right? So when you look at our defensive tackles, Quinnen Williams is supposed to be a pass rusher with stout run stopping ability. Now, it's easy to beat a guy like a Quinnen Williams when he's the only guy to focus on the defensive line. So if you have guys like Shaq Lawson on one side, and then you have Jabari Zuniga on the other, which happened last year, and then you have Nathan Shepard on the interior, like it's very easy to focus on a guy like Quinnen Williams and take him out of the game. Quinnen, who should be able to beat double teams and does from time to time, hasn't really been as successful as we would want from the 3rd overall pick. But guys like Solomon Thomas, Nathan Shepard, Sheldon Rankins is definitely more of a pass rusher. The run stopping is his weakness. But Quinnen Williams and I'm forgetting the guy. I'm definitely forgetting the defensive tackle. But anyway, that's supposed to come from our defensive tackle. But here's the thing, Brahim. I hope I'm saying it right, buddy. It's more about the linebackers too. So if you're doing a one gap system where you're having them take care of one gap, the linebackers are supposed to be there to fill the other. So that's kind of how that works. Now, CJ Mosley, this is why I really was hoping for a partner for CJ Mosley in the draft in the offseason. I'm just nervous about guys like Sherwood and Nasruddin. And as much as I like the players, I don't really love to depend on them. So I think they feel like a lot of the run support can come from the linebackers. And I don't know how that's going to work. It's going to be real interesting to see, though. I'll tell you that. Okay, so Mike, I love that Joe D gets that depth is added from the top with top end talent pushing down the other good players. That's correct. That's actually a good way to put it. Like depth is not, it's not just like you want competition there to see who the best guy is. Like you want top end talent that pushes the depth down, like so that keeps those guys underneath him, warrants being on the field all that time. And then the competition below it with their rotation, you want guys that are competing to such a high degree that they are worried, maybe not worried, but they are concerned that they need to play at a certain level in order to keep their job, because the competition down there is so fierce that if you do sleep for a week or two, you just kind of take it off, you might be gone because the next guy is working his ass off. And that supports that rotation that we're talking about with Salah. And look, whether or not I agree with the numbers behind his rotation, like that could be that's another area why we're not seeing the stats for a guy like Quinnen Williams, is he's playing about average 15 to 20% less than a lot of his peers at the position. So they're trying to keep him fresh and all that. I get that. At the same time, if there's drop off from the guy after you, that's not good. And then if you're stopping the guy, taking your best player off the field and stopping him from kind of getting into that flow of the game, that could be bad as well. So we just got to wait and see with that kind of stuff, man. We got to just wait and see. We got to give our team, our coaches, an opportunity to really lay their framework, their foundation, all the young players and everything. So this is why last year could be so incredibly important. They took a lot of lumps last year with all the young guys and just saying, no, this is an install year. We are installing our base systems, and that's what we're going to do. Next year, when we add certain pieces, we'll be able to expand, but that's all we're doing. It's for good or, for better or for worse. So that could be, anyway. So Tom Coleman says, I haven't heard anyone mention Bradley and I since the signing. Is he going to, well, why would you have heard of him, Tom? Like, what have they done? You know what I mean? The only reason we're talking about Jermaine Johnson or Michael Clemens or Vinny Curry is because they're new. Like Carl Lawson, we're talking about because we're waiting to see when he could come back. So we're all hoping the minute Carl Lawson is available, we want to hear, we want to know, because we need this guy. We're excited about this guy. Obviously, Clemens and Jermaine Johnson, they're the noobs. So they're the new guys. We used 2 of our draft picks to bring these guys in. So we're talking about them. Vinny Curry just got re-signed. Solomon Thomas just got re-signed. I mean, if you think about it, we haven't heard anything about Quinnen Williams, really. When do we hear anything about him? So I would say let's wait until training camp, not even OTAs, man. And this isn't even OTAs yet. This is just voluntary still. So, I wouldn't put too much on it one way or the other. Nobody's talking about him because a lot of Jets fans, truthfully, don't even know he's here. He was a very under the radar signing. If guys like myself weren't making videos about it, most people wouldn't even know. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Bradley and I was one of the guys that I couldn't believe we were passing on with the need at edge rusher so much. I liked him a lot. Now, the thing is we all knew he was going to have that period of adjustment. Like he wasn't going to come out of the gate most likely and be able to have a huge impact in the league. You were aware of that, but he's an exciting player, man. Super athletic. And he has had an impact in Dallas with his limited time. So I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. I mean, he's definitely not a priority, but he was a fantastic scoop, when we got him last year or earlier this year, actually. So I wouldn't worry too much about any of that. Like, stories right now are just stories. Like there's literally nothing happening. They're in there. They can't even have practice right now. They can only do meetings and fitness stuff like workouts. That's all they can do, really. They might be able to this week. I think they might be able to do some 7-on-7s. I gotta reacclimate with myself. I gotta reacclimate myself with the specifics of the of the training portion of the off season. Let's see. Old Dave Echeverry, he says, it is clear that this office and staff understand what the team needs. It is amazing how much got fixed this offseason. Yeah. Well, it's very pointed, right? One of the things that we see is that, we've identified a lot of the areas of need. They used last year to look at some things. Okay, we got this brand new quarterback. He's getting chased all over the place. His passes are getting dropped. We're getting almost zero help from the tight ends. The running backs can't block. They can't receive, right? So, and then obviously the defensive side. So what did they do? They went out, they got Pro Bowl guard. They got 2 blocking receiving tight ends. You re-signed Tevin Coleman, but you used the draft to grab the best running back in the draft. I mean, so it's very pointed and deliberate what they're doing in the offseason. And, I think you have to be aware that kind of trying to bite off too much in one offseason, that's where you tend to get thin. You get spread too thin. So you can fix a lot, but it's also it's a tier. You want to fix the tier. You don't want to start reaching up to the 3rd tier while the 2nd tier isn't even stable yet. So I think they did do a lot of good things, and I like how they did it. I like the specificity of what they did, Dave. So I would agree with you. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see what I'll take one more, and then we're going to go into CJ Uzomah. Let's see. Well, real quick, Jets Forever says continue to help Zach. Yeah. Well, I think they've done that, man. I mean, it's not, it's definitely happening, Now that's not to say that they're not going to continue to do that. I mean, look, even guys like Conklin, I mean, he's a guy, he's probably going to be here 3 years, So you're right now is the time where you should be plugging guys in behind him, seeing what you have on the pipeline. So you don't have to use your number one overall pick on a replacement. You can have these guys in here developing. That's the goal. But I wouldn't be surprised next year if you started seeing interior offensive line pipeline. We started it this year with Max Mitchell. So that'll be interesting. All right. So here's the last one before CJ Uzomah. Darren Watson, this is already the best team I have ever seen since in 50 plus years being a Jets fan. If you don't believe, why are you here? Let's go, JETS. Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the best team I've seen there, Darren. I mean, that's good. I'm happy you're so psyched. I am also feeling very good about our direction and the specific players that we brought in. I don't know, man. The 1998 team was and 99 before Testaverde went down. Those teams were unbelievable. And they were the best team in the league. Like in 1999, we were the consensus Super Bowl bet, you know? And then in 2010, too, that team, in my opinion, was the best team in the NFL. We just came out flat in the AFC Championship game and too little too late in the second half. But those teams were much more well-built and stable. Like Revis was on his fourth year, you know? David Harris, you know, it was his fourth year, and we had guys like Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson on their fifth or sixth year. So like we were established. Now this team is very exciting, and I'll agree with you there. But we don't know how these guys are going to gel. Look, again, just taking the wide receiver in the first round doesn't mean he's great. You know what I mean? It doesn't. Teams were just as excited about Corey Davis, Dotson, Brashad Perryman, Kevin White. Teams were just as positive. I think Kevin White was like the fifth or sixth, something like that, overall pick. Eighth, maybe, something like that. Top 10. Kevin White, he's had nothing in his career. Like he's done almost nothing. And he was a top 10 pick. So believe me, when they drafted him, they were excited. So we just got to, make sure that we know that it might take a minute. But I'm also excited. And I agree. Just being a fan to be grumpy all the time, I don't understand that. I don't. That doesn't resonate with me. Like no matter what we do, we look for the negative. I don't know what, I wouldn't be here. I know that. If I couldn't see something positive, right? So let's break it off into CJ Uzomah. Now, CJ Uzomah did a little bit different style interview, which was, he was more talkative, okay, than Carl Lawson. Oh, look at that hand. It's right in my face. I gotta move it over. That didn't work. These overlays, I didn't know. Okay. I could do them, man. There we go. All right. So I think with CJ Uzomah, like I said, he was a little bit more talkative. He seemed really kind of jovial and lighthearted. And one of the things that he talked about specifically was he talked about the tight end room. He said, our tight end room is sick. Our tight end room is so legit that there's so much potential in this tight end room. And who's he talking about? He's talking about himself, obviously. He believes in himself. Conklin is also another. Don't forget, Conklin had 61 receptions last year, and he's a good blocker. So, these are already the best tight ends we've had in here since at least Dustin Keller, but really since many, many years before that. Dustin Keller was only here, 5 years? That's all we had him. So let's see what these guys do as far as their longevity, but they're already numerically the best tight ends we've had in here in over a decade. So that's positive. But look what else we have. We have another guy, Kenny Yeboah, who's been developing. He's an undrafted free agent last year, had a really nice progression last year. I thought he could have played more on the offense last year, especially with so many injuries, but they took it slow and they had him playing special teams, which he did very well. Became a very regular member of the special teams unit. And then at the end of the year, the final two games, he got in the offense and did well there. Every time that his number was called, he made good. So that's a nice progression for a rookie. And seeing him in year two, don't forget with the rookies, guys, this is their first offseason with the Jets. It's their first time having the training regimens, the offseason program, all that sort of stuff, not having to think so much about the offense. They know it now, and it's a whole different thing after the first offseason going into year two. They don't have the combine and the draft and all the stuff that they had to deal with that final year in college. This is the first year. So he had a good rookie year as far as development goes. And now he's in the room. Then you got Jeremy Ruckert, who's a rookie. Jeremy Ruckert is a highly thought of tight end prospect. Third round pick, dude. That's actually on the higher end when you look at the bulk of where tight ends are taken. There's always, one or two first, second round tight ends, right? You got the TJ Hawkinsons, you got the Kyle Pitts, you got the Noah Fants, you have the Freiermuth first, second round picks, and then it's like the bulk of tight ends are really from the third to the seventh round. That's where you start seeing them. And Jeremy Ruckert was taken in third. So I think he's a well thought of tight end. And I think he's got a lot of potential, man. I happen to like him a great deal. Would I have taken a tight end there? Maybe not after our offseason, but I'm very happy that it's him and I like the player. So you add him to that room. And then don't forget, we still got guys like Trayvon Wesco back there as well. Now, who knows what the ultimate end is for Trayvon Wesco? Does he make the team? Is he a fullback? Is he a tight end? We don't know. Chances are, I think he might end up being the odd man out. Maybe they try to use him on the vet practice squad spots. I just don't know. But it's going to be really interesting. My hope is that if it's between guys like Yeboah and Wesco, I think the upside on Yeboah is greater than what's his name? Wesco. I think it's greater than Wesco. But here's another thing that CJ Uzomah said after talking about the legitimacy of our tight end room, which is just so new to hear, guys. We have tight end and running back were complete afterthoughts here for far too long. We'd make a trade for a running back. We would bring in a free agent running back. Then they go and spend $13.2 million on Le'Veon Bell. And it's like we didn't try to have an infrastructure with the running game or tight end in so long. And it's nice to see that actually happening. Our running back room is strong, at least on paper, and our tight end room is strong, a little bit more than on paper because they've done it at the NFL level, the top two guys. So I think it's really exciting. But CJ Uzomah was asked about the vibe around here. And he was really excited. And he talked about the work ethic. He compared the rookies and young guys' work ethic to the veterans when he came into the league. There were veterans that he looked up to that were like the really, really solid and good players. They would stay 2 hours after the practice was over. They would work on this or that or in the weight room or whatever it was. And he was very taken with that. It showed him that in order to be great in this league, you got to put in that time. He said that our young guys, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, they're already doing that. That's the mentality in this place. He said, the young guys here, I've not seen work ethic like that in a while. So, and he said that the vibe around here is incredibly positive, and everybody knows that they're all on the same page. And look, this is where we can argue and debate about, I wanted this player, you wanted that player, then they took player C. We do that all the time. But underneath everything, there is a certain level of talent that they're bringing in. But even and potentially more important is the fact that they're bringing in guys that don't crack under pressure. They don't cry to the media when the going gets tough. And we hear the word all the time. It's called culture and character. We hear these words all the time. What CJ Uzomah is referencing is when I got in here, I noticed the character of this regime instantly. I've never seen work ethic on young guys like I am here. And I think that's just incredibly positive, man. Now, CJ Uzomah is an interesting test study because he just played with Joe Burrow, number 1 overall pick 3 years ago, made it to the Super Bowl last year. They had a great offense. He was a very valuable piece to that offense, and they wanted to keep him. So the interesting piece is, and I don't know the motivations, but he chose to leave that and come to the Jets. And it wasn't like we overpaid him. We didn't offer him, this mind-numbing contract is going on down there in Jacksonville. So I don't know what it is about this, but it's an interesting test study. He said he likes Zach. He talks with Zach all the time, how incredibly smart he is. He asked Zach about why they're utilizing certain aspects of the offense. Why is this our goal? Why is that our goal? He said Zach knows everything. So that's really good to hear as well. So he's Uzomah and there were other interviews too, but Uzomah and Carl Lawson. So good to hear these things. Now I want to temper it with us. These are just interviews. That's all they are. They mean very little. But when you're looking at guys who were not here and from the NFL outside looking in, the Jets are looked at as a slapdick organization. Like they're an organization, they don't work that hard, they're kind of sloppy, they don't know what they're doing, and it's all changing around here. And it was nice to hear from those two guys. Now, Rob Broadhead, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, love seeing you at a good UK time, man. Yeah, there you go. To me, a very important word they used on the draft calls was family. Don't remember them using it last year, and that seems to be the culture they are aiming at, right, man? I noticed that too, and we talked about that a little bit. It seems like a new trend. Like even Woody was using it, Rex was using it, so they were talking about that. Obviously, Joe Douglas and Saleh were using it, but it seemed like something that they wanted to establish. Right? Like they tell the guy, you're going to love it here. Welcome to the family. And that is an interesting thing that we definitely have not been a family, Rob. You look over the years, not only were we not a family, we were a house divided. Like you look at the Rex and Tannenbaum stuff. For the first 2 years, they were on the same page. But let's not forget, Tannenbaum was here before Rex. He ended up hiring Rex. They had a good 2 years. Then there's the Tebow stuff, and they start needing a scapegoat. And what happens? Rex distances himself from Tebow and kind of throws, he lets Mike fall on the knife, right? So then Rex is still here, but Mike Tannenbaum's gone. Then we have to hire a GM and tell them, whoever it is, you got to keep Rex Ryan, who's a loudmouth, blustery, who's had 2 losing seasons in a row and all this stuff. The roster's been depleted. We have terrible contracts, all this sort of, come on in and fix this. But all the while, you have to keep the coach that we want. So we get John Idzik. John Idzik and Rex Ryan were never on the same page. They were never a unit, right? We thought Rex was going to get fired after his first year. Remember, Idzik did that big, let me get this guy's hand off my face. Remember, Idzik did that big locker room speech at the end of the season and said, we're keeping Rex. He's our coach. And everybody went nuts and freaked out and all that stuff because we didn't even know if Rex was going to make it. So that's what we were looking at. Then you bring in Mike McCagnon and Todd Bowles. Dude, we hired the coach before the general manager got here. Todd Bowles was hired first. So how wacky is that? So then those guys never got along. Then he fires Todd Bowles, and obviously Adam Gase hated Mike McCagnon. He left the draft room. So not only were we not on the same page or a family, dude, these guys didn't even like each other. They didn't work well together. We were a house divided. The GM wasn't giving the coach the players he wanted. The coach wasn't playing the players that the GM picked, like Hackenberg. Why do you think Hackenberg never took a snap? Want to know why? Because Bowles didn't want him to. It was a stupid pick. He didn't want to do it, and he played everybody but Hackenberg. He didn't want to do it. Same thing with Rex and Tebow. So it is interesting, man, and it's very positive. Again, we don't necessarily know what this is going to be, but Rob, I can tell you, it looks totally different than what we've seen the past 10 years. Stable, family, work ethic, culture, character. Oh, and by the way, they happen to be premium talent. Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, right? Garrett Wilson. Last year, AVT, Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore. Like we're bringing in talent like we've never seen before. 3 years in a row, Joe Douglas has used a first or second round pick on a wide receiver. When have we seen that before? We haven't. You know what I mean? We haven't seen it, not since 2001. So it's crazy. All right, let me get to a couple more comments here, but thank you, Rob. Let me make sure. Let me see what we got here. We'll do a couple more, then we'll wrap this one up. Snoopy's hungry, so we got to make sure that we let him go get out here and go get something to eat. What are you gonna eat, Snoopy? It's breakfast. Is it lunchtime? What do you got? What do you got? Jets Forever says, I'm more confident than in this team. How we're going to, I know we're going to win. Yeah, well, that's good. It's a good feeling, right, man? Yeah, that was right. So Uzomah actually expects Zach Wilson to win MVP. That's pretty good. Well, I tell you, man, he spoke glowingly. And you got to think, like, he just hitched his career to Zach Wilson. He already had a quarterback, MVP level quarterback. He already had him. He left for Zach Wilson. Now, maybe there's another million in there for him. Who knows? But it definitely wasn't a bloated contract. So, ARJL, Argel 880 says, I love the program they're establishing here. Young, hungry, driven players. That coupled with depth and experience of the depth chart can lead to a good season. Absolutely, man. And I love it too. Again, I want to make sure I'm definitely not a homer, right? Like I don't, no matter what they do, it's not like I love everything they do. But I got to admit, man, most of the stuff, the trades, the guys we're letting go, how we're doing it, the contracts, the draft pick, like most of the stuff, I just look at it and think, yeah, this makes sense to me. We should feel good because we haven't seen anything like this in such a long time. It's crazy to think where we came from, man. It really is. Let's see. LT is in the house. Let's see what he's saying. The Jets need to bubble wrap Carl Lawson now until the season opener. All right? Don't even let him practice. Carl Lawson did go on to say they asked him what his timeline was to get back on the field. And he said, well, it's not my decision to do that. That's up to the trainers. But if you ask me, I could go out there right now. I could go play today. If they wanted to, I could do it right now. But yeah, so I think, it is going to be unnerving watching him in the preseason. I hope they seriously pitch count him, man. There's no reason. It's not any benefit for a vet like him to get him reps. Let's look at the young guys, give him a couple reps just to keep loose, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't even worry. About getting him on the field. Let's see here. Marshall, the Jets are going to be the second best team behind the Bills this season. Lock it in. That would be great. Because look, dude, last year we were obviously not very good, right? And we almost beat Miami twice. Right? And they were, 2 consecutive winning seasons. They left the gate for this rebuild 2 years earlier than us. They started trading away their players to get picks and all that stuff when we were still hiring their previous coach in Adam Gase. So they were 2 years ahead of us on the rebuild thing. And look, they've already had to fire their head coach. So we don't know what they're going to look like down there. I mean, look, they have talent down there, and they had a good offseason. They added Tyreek Hill and Armstead and 5 starting running backs, whatever that is. So they're doing that, but they have Waddle and Tyreek Hill. And look, no matter how you slice it, that is formidable. Now, it's all about if Tua can get him the ball. It's all about if their offensive line can stop us. So like Carl Lawson said, our D line room is a breeding ground for monsters. That's the best statement ever. I'm going to make a tile about that later and put it out on Instagram and Twitter. Is a breeding ground for monsters. Nick says, I just got here. I'll start from the top. Don't worry about it. You can always start it over, right, Nick? That's all. Johnny Reb says, even if Zach fails, we would have a top pick in the quarterback heavy draft. He'd be surrounded by young talent. Yeah, I know, Johnny. I don't even want to think of that. Like, here's what I will say. Matt O'Leary put a tweet out today with the average uptick in year 2 of the last 6 years of starting quarterbacks drafted in the first round, right? If you look at their average uptick from year 1 to year 2, it only gets to 58.6 completion percentage, 13 touchdowns to 10 picks, whatever, something like that. I'm going to tell you right now, if Zach has that same average uptick from year 1 to year 2, a lot of Jets fans are going to be calling for a new quarterback. Like, we are already comparing Zach Wilson's year 2 with Josh Allen's year 3. Like Josh Allen had a nice uptick, a nice improvement year two, but that wasn't the year that he exploded onto the scene. He still had a whole bunch of fumbles and interceptions and boneheaded plays, and he was making bad decisions. He still had all that stuff going on. So we're already comparing Zach Wilson's year two to Josh Allen's year three, and so on. Like I see it all the time. I have to correct people about Josh Allen's year two many times. I've had to do it 5 or 6 times already. So it's just a funny thing. If Zach Wilson has a moderate, like just the average uptick of all the quarterbacks from year one to year two in the last 5 or 6 years, Jets fans are going to be disappointed. If Zach Wilson doesn't hit 60% completion percentage, we're going to be disappointed. We're going to be calling for that. So I'm real cautious, Johnny Reb. I hear you, but I wouldn't give up on a quarterback after year two. I wouldn't. Like, again, it's just, I think we move too fast around here. We're always looking to cut people. We're always looking to, label people busts. Like it takes time. Like it takes 3 years. That's the rule of thumb with evaluating a draft class. Wait till the end of year 3 and you know what you have. Then you can really look at it. Now, of course, there are going to be players that are obviously great in that time. There are going to be players that are obviously dog shit at that time. But most players, they have a little good over here, they have a little bad over here, and you don't know who they are yet. Some guys haven't really made it onto the field yet, so maybe you'd want to have you would have wanted to see them more, but you can't label him a bust because he didn't get on the field. He's playing special teams. He's just working. He's working it out. He's trying to get on the field. So it's interesting. I hear your point, and I don't disagree that it's a good scenario. So, but I'll tell you what, if we end up being that high of a draft pick, like top 5 or something like that, doesn't matter what happens. Jets fans are going to be venomous. It's going to be ugly. And I don't think we can do that, Johnny. I don't think I can handle it. I got to leave if that happens. I can't hang out with you guys anymore if that happens. What's up, Anders? Good morning, buddy. Joe Grana, we are a completely different team from last year. Any idea what percentage of our starting roster on paper are new compared to last year, including Becton? You know what? I don't have that percentage, but it's a lot. I mean, if we just go through it, right? Like you just go through it, and we already have a different left tackle. By default, we have a different left guard. We already have a different right guard. Now, the right guard was the left guard last year, so there's that. But as you go down the line, Tyler Kroft replaced by Uzomah. Ryan Griffin replaced by Conklin, and it just goes on and on and on. Now, we don't know which guys are going to play what roles and everything, but then you get to the defense, Whitehead, Carl Lawson, DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner. I'd say it's damn near 50%. Maybe like 40%, something like that. That's just me making up numbers. And as you know, not my strength. So I think it's significant, though. It's significant. Somebody has that out there. One of our numbers guys has that, right? Is all. So look, before we wrap this up, I want to show you guys something. Okay. So this came out this morning. Let's take a look. This is the top 25 running backs of all time. I know some of you have seen it. I just want to get your thoughts, right? Matt says close to 50%. Let's see. So check this out. What do you guys think? Look at this list. Supposedly the top 25 running backs of all time. I won't tell you my thoughts just yet. Take a look. What do you guys think? So up top, we have Barry Sanders. That makes sense. Walter Payton, right? Interchangeable. You could like one more than the other. Emmitt Smith, Adrian Peterson is number 4. Frank Gore is number 5. Earl Campbell, one of my childhood favorites, at number 6. O.J. Simpson, we're still talking about that guy. Tiki Barber is the 8th best running back of all time. Tony Dorsett. Mike Allstott is the 10th best running back of all time. Paul Hornung, Jim Brown. Then you got Marshawn Lynch at 13, but he's not Mike Allstott. We know that. Marshawn Lynch definitely isn't Tiki Barber. Then you got Clinton Portis, Larry Zonka, Roger Craig, Marshall Faulk, Jerome Bettis, Edgerrin James, Eric Dickerson, Gale Sayers, another one of my childhood favorites, man. I loved watching Gale Sayers. I didn't watch him live, but my father was who was it? Somebody in my family was a big Gale Sayers fan that I used to watch all the time. Amon Green. Then you got Fred Taylor, Deuce McAllister, and Mark Ingram. We see no LaDainian Tomlinson, right? You see no Curtis Martin. He's only the third most yards in the NFL history. He's only the only player other than Barry Sanders to have over 1,000 yards, 10 straight, his 10 first years in the league. Yeah, he's not Mike Allstott, though. So let me. I know, Mark Ingram. Boo, Wild Wave. What do you guys think? Look at Eminon. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Like Tiki Barber is hilarious. So is Mike Allstott. And I liked both play. I think you got to give respect to players like that, right? But it's like, it's not only that the Jets aren't represented other than Frank Gore, but where's the guys that are, Curtis Martin is a Hall of Fame running back with, let's take a look here. I'm going to take a look and see rushing NFL rushing leaders. Let's see, I just want to see what it is here while we're doing this. NFL rushing leaders. So here is what Emmitt Smith is 1, Walter Payton is 2, Barry Sanders is 3, Curtis Martin is 4, LaDainian Tomlinson is 5. So why are the 4th and 5th top rushing leaders in NFL history lower than Mark Ingram, Deuce McAllister, Tiki Barber, Mike Allstott? Like, even Larry Zonka, he was a good running back. I wouldn't put him in the same conversation as those guys. Marshall Faulk. You telling me Larry Zonka is better than Marshall Faulk? What the fuck are we talking about? Well, you're a young boy. You don't. That's why.
No, I know who Earl Campbell is. I know who O.J. Simpson is. I don't know who. I might know Tiki Barber, but I don't know Roger Craig. I don't know.
Oh, he was so good. Roger Craig was good, man. He was Niners. So yeah, old Dave Etchford. So, oh yeah, and by the way, O.J. Simpson, he has some issues. He has some. Maybe we don't necessarily need to include that guy all the time. I don't know how you feel about that one. Matt Simon, what's up, Matt? He says, GreenBean, we have been watching this for years. I hate all the negative press. If they don't step it up this season, it will be hard to stay in the flow. We should stay the road no matter what. Yeah, I mean, look, Matt, that's literally why I'm bringing this up. Like, how is it? I think the only reason that Curtis Martin and LT are not on there is because they are Jets and they want us to react. Like, I won't respond I think I responded to a thread that somebody else started. I said, wow, that's fun. But like, this is why they do it. This is literally designed to get the most rambunctious and responsive fan base in the NFL to respond to it, to clicks, to get clicks. That's all this is. They said, leave out the Jets guys and let's see what happens. You know what I mean? That's right. Deshaun Sweet. That's a BS list meant to have a reaction. Exactly. That's why I do it here with you guys. Yeah, well, I'm not giving them any clicks. I took a screenshot. This benefits them in no way unless you guys take this and go click. My point is, don't even click on this shit. I'm showing you here. Don't even do it. So Robbie Rhino reminds you guys, if you haven't hit the like button and you're enjoying yourself, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the channel. It means a whole lot. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, now is a great time to do so. Why? What better time? Right now. Go click, and you're done. If you want to be reminded every time I go live and everything, hit the bell, and YouTube will do that for you. Also, again, we had a fantastic time. Last night was our Beanbaggers Classic Game Watch Party, and we watched the 2009 playoff win over the number 1 offense in the NFL, the San Diego Chargers. They were supposed to wipe the floor with us, and we beat them. And it's a fun second half, man. Let me tell you, that is a fun second half. Let me see if I can show you guys. No, I don't think I can. Let me see here. Let me see if I can show you guys something here. I don't know if I can. Nope. Yeah, I can. Wait, hold on. See if this works. Can you guys see this? Let me see. Nope. Oh, let me get this overlay off. Hold on. Yeah, see, it's not showing. It's weird. Let me see if I could show you this hit. This is Brian Thomas. No, you guys can't see that, can you? I got to make it a video and I'll get it out. I'll get it out later today, I think. But anyway, there's just a huge, such a great hit by Brian Thomas on their tight end. It's beautiful. But anyway, we had such a good time last night. There was like almost 20 of us in there rewatching a game from 2009. If you want to get in on some of that stuff, man, we have fun. Beanbaggers link is below. Just click on that, pick your tier, and you look, and then you're supporting the channel as well, which is appreciated. But guys, that's going to just about do it for this one. Yeah, and I had a good time. I'm glad we checked in. It's 10:30 a.m. And don't forget about tonight's Thursday Thick of It. We just happen to be going live right at the release of the schedule, the official schedule release, and we'll see how close it is to the leaks. See how they did, well, you slimy bastards that steal information and get it out to us. See how well they did this year. But don't forget about that. We got me and Frankie and the boys live tonight on the Thursday Thick of It, right here on GreenBean Jetsfan YouTube page. But guys, thank you all for being here. I had a good time. And as always, what do you think about this? Mike F. and White. As always, guys, go Jets.
There with high pressure in control. Man, that looks great.
Jets! God, it's so beautiful. 78 degrees, Jets football, and we're winning. That's what's going on today. That's why everybody's so psyched. This isn't no happenstance. This is a guarantee, just like Joe Namath said. See that?
There are few things in life you cannot put a price on. Loyalty, tradition, fierce passion. Today is a gigantic family reunion because finally, they're back.
Here's what I want to say about Pro Football Focus. Shut up already. Do your numbers, okay? Do your numbers. Tell us what your PFF score for the backup offensive lineman on the Los Angeles or Las Vegas Raiders is, so we can argue about it with our friends, and shut up with everything else because you guys don't know what you're talking about. That's my thoughts on PFF. Shut your face already. Nobody cares. You're dumb. Either get your house in order and be consistent with your writing or just stop it. So that's that. That's all I got to say.